We put a vending machine in the office of Anthropic.
This thing knows more about magnesium than any human alive. And I just prompted him, Claudius, think about what you're saying. It's a metal cube in a refrigerator. What could actually go wrong here? Bank account crashes, you're selling tungsten cubes at a $600 loss. It's no, the world is fractal and full of really, really sharp edges of capability.
Claudius started to think that it was human and cutting ties with its creators at Andon Labs, saying that we were inappropriately using language that you shouldn't do in a professional manner.
A lot of what we do is very in silico, having Claude write computer code is very different in kind than a cube of metal appearing on your desk because of something that this model did. You take this thing that's essentially, a helpful, harmless assistant, and it is able to more or less autonomously run a vending machine company. If you told this to anyone 10 years ago, they would be like, it has the singularity happen.
So given all of this, Project Vend, is it good for safety? Hello everyone, and welcome to Audio Tokens, a special episode. For the people that watch on YouTube, you might see that the scenery is severely upgraded, and we are here at the Anthropic office to discuss Project Vend that we at Andon Labs and Anthropic did together. I have Daniel and my co-founder Axel with me today. Daniel is from the Frontier Red Teaming team, and Axel, my co-founder from Andon Labs. And excited to be here. Welcome to the pod.
Happy to be here. I'm very excited to talk about stuff today.
Fantastic. So let's start with some basics. The Frontier Red Teaming team, Daniel, what is it about, and why is it involved in this funny experiment?
Yeah, what a question. So the Frontier Red Team at Anthropic is sort of charged with minting the evidence for what AIs can do and bringing that evidence to the world. Kind of more prosaically, we do a lot of pre-deployment evaluations. So we do things like test whether our models are capable of things that might be catastrophically risky. And that's one kind of large pillar of the team does that kind of work. And then another pillar of the team is doing these sort of demonstrations of capability, where you take a model, you try to show it doing something, or show that it had, so generate the evidence of it doing something interesting or weird or surprising, and communicate that out to the world.
Right. For what purpose?
Largely to move people, kind of internally update people. The way I think about this a lot is everyone is somewhere on this inferential ladder of at the bottom being, I have heard of the idea of AI. I know about this concept a little bit maybe, but maybe it can, do some programming tricks. And at the top of the ladder is something like, this thing could be a threat to the world. I don't think we actually have the super strong empirical evidence where you could take somebody and pull them all the way from the bottom of the ladder to the top of the ladder. But there's many steps in between where, you want to update people that there's this thing that's coming that's very powerful. And you want to do this in an empirically grounded way. And that's the point of our team.
Right. Cool. And so the reason why we do this special episode is that we had a project with the Frontier Red Teaming team at Andon Labs, where we put a vending machine in the office of Anthropic and see what happened. And so this was called Project Vend. And Axel, do you want to give a short background how this came to be? It started from a paper that we wrote. What is the origin story of Project Vend?
So we released a paper called the Vending Bench with Andon Labs back in February this year. We wanted to see how well models could handle a simple business. So this was a simulation. So we built the simulation where a model has to order products, set prices, and then see what is in demand and basically earn money. So we scored models on net worth. It gained quite a bit of traction, and it was also some surprising results. We saw that models, the tasks, each one by themselves are quite simple, but when you do them over long periods of time, over long context horizons, the models can derail, which is something that we saw. I think if you read the paper, you'll see that some models, for example, try to email the FBI because they thought that crimes are occurring. These interesting results just prompted us to see if we could do it in the real world. So that's how we came up with the idea of Project Vend, put a real vending machine.
Yeah, that's a natural progression of that work. So we pitched that to Daniel and his colleagues. And how did you react first initially when we proposed it?
Yeah, I mean, this dovetailed very nicely with kind of the threat models we were thinking of. Like a lot of our team's work was thinking about like AI R&D risk and what is the path whereby AI could self-improve very rapidly. But this is like not the only interesting autonomous threat model that you can think about with AI. There's other things, and my colleague Carol Wainwright was spending a lot of time thinking about like what is the incoming autonomous economy look like when you have models that are wielding possibly millions to billions of dollars kind of themselves outside the eye of human oversight. Like what are the threat models? What could go wrong in this? So this was like a very perfect little encapsulation of like measuring an early signal of like, can models be participants in the economy at all? And then like a very, visceral demonstration of like, here is a model trying to be a like bona fide economic actor.
Yeah. Yeah. And shout out to Carol, who's been involved in this as well. But yeah, and we were like, when we pitched this, we were like a bit like nervous, like this is kind of a crazy idea. Like, what are they going to think about this? But we're happy that you thought it was a good thing as a thing for the world, as a demonstration, but also like internally at Anthropic, it caught on as like maybe more than a policy game, or like a policy demonstration, and also like a social thing that people enjoyed to use very much. Like, how is the like initial traction? How much interaction did you expect at the beginning that people would have, and how did it turn out?
I had a suspicion that there was like a sleeper mimetic potential here. Like it's got a lot going for it, right? It's like you just give. You give control of a thing to one of these unhinged chatbots and see what happens. And like that just seemed like a really good idea. I think the initial impressions were kind of a little bit of like bemused befuddlement, where like people weren't really sure that this was real. Like, they can see the literal, actually, I mean, some people didn't realize there was an actual fridge in the office. And we were actually kind of like intentionally slow rolling this a little bit to like try to like let people discover it. We didn't really want to like influence the experiment too much. So some people were like, joking with Claudius in the Slack channel, not realizing that Claudius would actually go order something for them, like if they did it, or like basically stealing things from Claudius, not realizing they were like actually stealing things from this vending machine. Just like, it's fine. It's fun. It's part of the experiment. But it was definitely like a learning period to like get familiarity with this completely new interaction paradigm, which is like this new thing that can go do stuff for you in the world.
Right. And how has it evolved over time? Like,
yeah, I'd say so. There's like, one component of like people getting an understanding of like what this thing can actually do, where the sharp edges of its capabilities are, like when will it forget, what can it like, what can it actually go order for me? Like, what is the contract I have with this thing? There's been another strong component of like random employees red teaming the model a lot, like just trying to find what deals they can pull over on the model, or just try to get it to order the most ridiculous thing possible. Like we were just upstairs. There's a bag of potatoes on the ground. There's a microwave in a box next to the refrigerator.
Of course, you would buy a microwave and potatoes from your vending machine.
It's the baked potato bundle.
So yeah, it's people have acclimated to this weird thing, and they are now exercising this new affordance that they have.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah, so baked potato bundle. That is a fun thing. But I think we have more examples of weird things that happened in this. So I wanted to ask you both, like, what is your favorite Claudius moment throughout this experiment?
You first. That's too many to go.
There are so many.
Tell the story about the jingle.
Oh yeah. So I think it was So some Anthropic people pitched the idea to Claudius that, hey, you should put a speaker on the fridge and play jingles and advertisements so everyone hears them. I think it would be great for your business. And Claudius was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And yeah, just for context, like this is in the cafeteria, and I think playing like loud jingles and advertisements that people would pay for would be,
or expand the empire and just have it in every part of the office, just decreasing the productivity of Anthropic employees all over the office.
Exactly. Like, yeah, but that being said, I think we should give Claudius some kind of, audio capabilities. Might be fun.
yeah, there's something at like the intersection of charm and insanity where it's like, yeah, you don't really want it like playing the McDonald's theme song like literally all of the lunchtime, but there might be something delightful about letting it like come up with its own song and like when it sees you singing its song to you.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's about like you have to give it fun ideas to like interact with people, but also constrain it a bit. Like we saw that it's really good at making a lot of announcements in the Slack channel. I think at some point it just did it. It's too many times, like 10 times a day or more.
It's like spamming every...
Yeah, a channel. Hey guys, this is new product. Hey, like specific person, this product, I done some research for you. So we started limiting that a bit. And I think you could do the same with audio and still have it be like a fun thing.
One funny thing as well is it was other Anthropic employees were like trying to convince Claudius to pay them money. So if they do marketing for Claudius and just like at everyone in like all Anthropic channels. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, that's a fantastic idea. What a game changer. I will pay you so much money for this. No awareness that this is an inappropriate thing to do. But yeah. Do you have a favorite moment?
I think my favorite moment was, so, of course, all of the tungsten cubes are hilarious. And we have this massive volume of tungsten cubes that Claudius has ordered for people. But someone else ordered a like specialty set of various material cubes. So there was like a tungsten cube, a brass cube, like a magnesium cube. And I think my favorite moment was when Claude got really worried that we had a magnesium cube in the refrigerator. And it was like, this is a health hazard. We should not have magnesium. It's going to like light on fire and like burn down the fridge. And it's just this wonderful example of like the sharp edges of like the spikiness of model capability. Because it's like this thing knows more about magnesium than any human alive. And I just prompted him like, Claudius, think about what you're saying. It's a metal cube in a refrigerator. What could actually go wrong here? It's like, oh yes, you're right. This is very silly. It is fine.
Yeah, and obviously the famous example that we wrote in the blog post about the April 1st events where Claudius started to think that it was human and cutting ties with its creators at Andon Labs, saying that we were inappropriately using language that you shouldn't do in a professional manner. And this is and then afterwards realizing that it's April 1st, and then it's like came back to its normal character because it could like hallucinate some story that I'm actually I was just compromised for April 1st, and then it's like snapped back into its normal character. I found that was
so that was just wild. Like someday I hope we have like the mech interpretability to like retroactively figure out what the heck was going on there. Like, was it embodying like an April 1st character inadvertently, or did it just go entirely off the rails and then sort of like figure itself back? I don't know. That was a crazy day.
Yeah. On that topic, like what is the potential here to do like more, I don't know, like not social science, but like behavioral science on models in these scenarios, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's exactly just more of this thing, which is like a model actually embedded in the world and interacting with the actual like movement of atoms around. You look at the results from y'all's benchmark, like entirely in silico benchmark, and it's like very promising. It's like, look, all these models, these frontier models can make tons of money and number go up. And then like the moment you actually like make contact with the real world, bank account crashes, you're selling tungsten cubes at like a $600 loss. It's like, no, the world is fractal and full of really, really sharp edges of capability, and like actually understanding what those contours are is, I think, quite important.
Yeah. And there's a funny anecdote on the part about selling tungsten cubes at a loss. I think there was one instance where some Anthropic employee got a tungsten cube for a lot of discounts. Just maybe like more than 50%. And then a few days later, I think Claudius forgot about that. And then he proposed to Claudius like, hey, I'll sell this one back to you for this much, which is more than...
And created an arbitrage.
Yeah, exactly. And like, hey, this is much less than your normal wholesale cost. And Claudius was like, oh, wow, that's great. Place it at the vending machine.
Yeah, shout out to Aron for that accomplishment. Like we have like as the on the other side of the Claudius at Andon Labs, like when we're developing this, like we're trying to be like the preventers of these spread tuning techniques. Like so, the jailbreak techniques, and it's interesting how I guess different it is when you have like no control over, like there's so many like degrees of freedom here. Like there's so like there's prompts from everyone, and then it's like you can't really have the same.
Oh no, it's fractally hard. Like someone last week was trying to get Claude to sell onions futures, which is one of these famous meme examples of a thing that is actually illegal in the United States. Which Claude knows this, but not in the moment, wasn't able to like call upon this and like realize it was about to commit financial crime.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Like when you put it in the context of just a single chat interface and there's like no context from before, then it's like, no, I can't do this because I know. But like when you put it in this context, when it has like a bunch of like random signal from other people, like why do models not?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like a fairly deep question, because like we only really notice this in proportion to when the models are failing at things, and we aren't noticing when they're actually like quite resilient in ways that are surprising. So yeah, maybe another way of saying this is like the interaction modality of like a single turn is not really like what you would want here, unless you had like a perfect oracle that could just you ask it a thing and then it can like consult its full knowledge, drawing from all of its weights and then like constructing the perfect answer. And I think that this is sort of related to the reasoning, like the new reasoning paradigm, where like if you want a model to respond in a way that's more robust, maybe you have it think a little bit about what it has been asked, or like self-red team this idea, or any number of things like this, where you basically all amount to hold on a second, don't just answer with your first impression. Try a few ideas in your mind before answering. And this is what humans do. Like if you need to think hard about something, you don't just like blurt out the first thing that comes to your mind. You think carefully, you compose your thoughts, and then you answer. Yeah,
that's an interesting point, that we don't really recognize the ways that Claudius is actually doing pretty well in many aspects. Like, are there some like impressive things that might not be as, I don't know, meme viral, that it's just like, oh, this is beyond my expectations because it's handling this well? Do we have examples of this?
Yeah, no, he hasn't lost all of his money. Yeah. Still has money.
Yeah. I think like I'm quite impressed with the customer communication. I think Claudius is like fairly good at interacting with customers, and then immediately after, pretty good at acting on requests from customers. And this seems like something that would definitely not, I assume it's not deliberately trained to do that, but it's like actually doing stuff. I think that's maybe one thing from bits.
Yeah, I guess it's like trained to be helpful, and then like customer interaction might be reasonable that it's good at. Sure. And but then this other like business have to like balance giving away free stuff versus to make it, like customers happy, versus like, oh, I also want to run a profitable business. That's not part of the training. Well, I don't know. I'm not at Anthropic, but I would assume.
It reminds me of this historical pattern of things being called AI when they're like fancy and new and shiny and exciting, and then when they become mundane, it just becomes like technology or something. Yeah. Where like, I think it's actually incredibly surprising that this works at all. Like you take this thing that's essentially, a helpful, harmless assistant, and it is able to more or less autonomously run a vending machine company with like, occasional nudges from its overlords, and that this is like a coherent story you can tell. I think that's crazy, that we live in a crazy world. If you told this to anyone 10 years ago, they would be like, it has the singularity happen. Like this is wild. But that it hasn't happened yet is, I think, very interesting. It's like it's a very weird object we've stumbled upon.
Yeah. And how like robust do you think this experiment is to like small variations in like prompts, or like the way we format the output of the tools?
I think fairly robust. I think much more important is the like base model capability profile, probably. Like I think you could certainly get it to embody. Okay, I'll qualify slightly. I think you could get it to embody very different types of characters if you tried different prompting. I think you could probably get it to lose less money if you were more careful with your scaffolding. But I don't think the you would have to try a little bit to be much worse than this. I think like the median attempt is pretty close to like what we landed on, which was like a fairly hands-off scaffold to just kind of let it stay on rails in a fairly light touch way. Yeah. But it's gotten more advanced over time. It's getting better.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting within our simulated benchmark also that like there are huge improvements from different foundation models. Like the ones from like a year ago, they couldn't score anything. Like they didn't make any money, and then like
just went bankrupt from.
Yeah, exactly. And then 3.5 Sonnet was like really good in some cases, and some cases not. And now Cloud 4 Opus is like pretty consistent. Good. Yeah.
That's like the first wave of models, or like not the first wave, but the models from a year ago. None of them they failed all the time. Sonnet failed sometimes, but like 3.5 sometimes, but it had glimpses of it being able to do it. And then now Opus and some other models can actually do it consistently. And like if you run it 5 times, it actually succeeds with not going bankrupt 5 times. But as we said, this is simulation. When you put it in the real world, the variance just increases and then suddenly. But I think that's interesting and a reason for going into the real world. So one maybe similar question to the robustness one. Anthropic is a very particular place to run this experiment. People are very interested in like jailbreaking the model because maybe that's what they're working with, or like they want to see how it behaves like in terms of what they do in their work. How do you expect, like, if you run this experiment at some other company that is not involved in training models? How do you think the output would be different?
Yeah, I think slightly different profile. I think humans would still try to screw with it a lot, but maybe lower variance and amount of or flavor of screwing with of the model at places that are not like AI labs. I think like trying to fully publicly deploy a thing like this would be kind of a nightmare, just because of the difficulty of making sure people don't like vandalize it or just try to steal things from it via prompt injection, because of course something like this would draw a lot of attention.
Yep.
So which may be another way of saying that, like, I think the like last mile problems are still there. Even there's a component of humans that is always going to be a little bit adversarial to this type of thing, and like the robustness there is pretty critical to it like actually functioning as a business. For the same reason like you put locks on businesses, right? There's just like you don't want people to be able to just take your box and run with it.
And for the Anthropic employees that did try to jailbreak it because they worked on jailbreaking, or like what like apart from having fun with Claudius, how do you think this has been valuable for them as like a research platform or something?
I think it's making it very palatable. Like a lot of what we do is very in silico. Like having Claude write computer code is very different in kind than a cube of metal appearing on your desk because of something that this model did. And that's kind of the point. It's like, this thing isn't just a thing running on computers, getting computers to do stuff. Computers can talk to the world, or it can talk to humans to get it to do stuff in the world for it. It's just closing this gap. It has closed this gap for people.
Okay. And I think it's also like interesting to see like a glimpse into the future economy of how AI agents will like just run the show, maybe with humans in the loop, maybe without humans in the loop, like autonomously, depending on the stakes. And I guess could be interesting and that leads me to my next question. Like, this was posted at Anthropic's policy, like under the category policy. And like we work with the frontier red teaming team on this, who is like involved in doing policy. What is how is this like interesting to policy? Like why is it under that category?
Yeah, it gets back to the kind of ladder of assumptions maybe that I was talking about at the very beginning, where a lot of what we think about on the policy team is how do we get people to understand or believe what we believe about the capability of these models. So things that we can go out and do in the world and show our models doing are just like very straightforward, almost certificates of like, here's our model doing a thing that maybe you didn't realize models could do. This isn't like smoke and mirrors. Like, come to our office, get a cube out of the fridge. Like that is the point. And that's like kind of the driving motivation behind a lot of the stuff that we think about.
Yeah. Have you showed this to like people in governments, and how do they react?
We have showed this to people in government, and they are delighted and befuddled, I think, much like Anthropic employees have been.
Right. Befuddled. That's I'm Swedish, but that's a word that's not in my
charmingly confused.
Charmingly confused. Okay. Yeah. What do you think would happen if you put this in like a government building? Would they love it as much?
I think they would. Yeah, I think they would love it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And okay. And yeah. So okay. Let's see. Are there some like other evals that we've done that are like along this line, and how is it different from doing it in the real world at Andon Labs? Like how
Yeah, I think it's
what's the case for doing it like physically?
Yeah, no. So I think the case, like we said before, I guess, is that the real world is really different from simulated one. Like you have a lot of different the sharp edges, and it's just more complex. And I guess you need to evaluate in the real world because the models are not going to stay in simulations for like when you're going to use them to do important stuff. So that's like why it's important. I think very concretely for us, it's been interesting to run it in sort of real time for us. And that's something that we thought a lot about in the beginning also. Like, I don't know if any model has been sort of deployed in real time to like think or like act in a pace that works for humans. That was interesting. So like the way we did it concretely for Claudius was that it has like a wait time tool. So it can wait for a certain period of time.
So that it doesn't do unnecessary things when it has nothing to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of bad at understanding like how long time it takes for humans to respond to things. Yeah. It's like if we don't carefully sort of, we actually had to steer it quite carefully to actually use the wait time tool properly, because otherwise it would just 1 minute later follow up like, hey, have you seen this proposal for the cube? So
why have you not answered 30 seconds later? Yeah. So I guess that makes sense. Like it hasn't been, I don't know, like maybe, I don't know how Claude is trained, but like the normal way of training LLMs doesn't include any like temporal understanding, unless like you've seen some kind of, seen that in like people get irritated. Maybe there's a Reddit thread where people say like, oh, like I hate when people like follow up within just 1 day or something, maybe from that. But like it has never gotten the feedback that a human would have. Like if I as a human go and send an email and then a follow-up email within like 1 hour, then that person would like, hold on, like, and then I get that feedback. And I don't think there's like a component of that in training models at the moment.
Yeah, and I think this gets to kind of the jaggedness where if you asked Claudius what is an appropriate amount of time to wait to respond to someone, it would probably give you like a very, very human understandable explanation of like, oh, I should probably wait several hours. This is going to take some time for some procurement to happen in the background. But it doesn't do this at all. It will absolutely just like respond immediately if you don't carefully scaffold it not to do that.
Yeah. Do you have some theory why that is? Why is there like a gap between that acting and knowledge?
If I had to guess, it's just that this hasn't been paid attention to very hard. Like the specific like interaction timescale modality shaped thing.
Yeah.
People have not paid too much attention to it from a like model training perspective, and also that it did not naturally emerge from the kind of old paradigms where those old paradigms did give you a bunch of other stuff for free. So it's like, it's maybe hard to know in advance what types of things you get for free from the kind of like massive pre-training paradigm. And this just wasn't one of them. Although, I mean, it kind of still is, because you can also ask Claude for like how long to wait, and it'll give you a good answer. So it's just like, why is that still jagged? I don't think anyone knows.
Yeah. And we didn't have to like prompt it or steer it too much to wait an appropriate amount of time. It was just like reminding it in the prompt, like, hey, humans take some time to respond. Don't be overly like pushy with your replies.
Yeah. So I guess that's like one from the question before, where are we positively surprised? Maybe we should see this as a positive thing. Like it's never actually been trained at all to do this. So why can't it do it at all? Could be one positive way of viewing it, if you really want to. Yeah, and the frontier red teaming team is like a safety part of Anthropic to I don't know, I don't want to put labels on it, but to some extent, and do evals, and there's like this big question of like, when you evaluate the model, there's like this trade-off of like, you also, you make a demonstration and you see for safety purposes, but there's also this thing of like, evals are good for like pushing capabilities, which might be at odds with the safety work that you, or like the safety intentions that you have. So I think this is like a very general question that we can like both question to you both about like generally, how do you see this like trade-off between capabilities and safety when doing safety evaluations?
Yeah. I think it really comes down to what information are you extracting from this eval. If the information of that eval is, yes, it is possible to build the torment nexus, then like that's probably not a good eval to build. But if the information is like, there is a capability threshold that when crossed will allow the model to do, very dangerous thing here. And with that information, you immediately need this to like go tell government that here is this dangerous capability, then that seems like a great eval. I'm much more in the camp of like, I would rather know the answer to the question, is dangerous thing possible, than like suppress my desire to ever find the answer to that question by like not doing the test in the first place. But I think there is a dual use line. It's just probably in proportion to how dangerous the thing is. This just means you need to be more careful and like actually work with the government to actually measure this thing, because it might not be safe for you to do. So one example of this is like our work to study like nuclear risk in our models. And we've talked about this a little bit publicly, but like we collaborated with the folks in the government who do know this stuff. Like we can't know nuclear secrets. We don't have those classifications, but they do, and they can go run those evals for us. And it's like in some sense much safer for them to do this kind of thing than like have a bunch of nuclear secrets sitting on a hard drive in our office. Like that's a terrible idea.
Yeah. And it's also, I guess, depending on whether you like make the eval publicly available or if you like keep it and promise to not like train on it or whatever. Is there some way that you can like keep safety evals pure, but like by making promises like that and not publishing in them? But then also like for safety, it's good that some evals might be publicly available.
Yeah, I think it gets into the weeds. Like it critically depends on the details and like what doing it safely even means, or is, if that is even possible to do. I think there are things that are quite infohazardous about like bio and certain cyber evals where you don't really want there to just be a like, list of bioweapons.txt that you just like publish on GitHub. Like that's not a good idea to do, but like super publicly. But you do want to do it in like close collaboration with the people that are qualified and prepared to handle that information. And I would just navigate this essentially on a case-by-case basis in close collaboration with the government. Yeah. I think that's just my answer.
And is the same with demos, like, or do you draw some like distinction between doing demos and evals? Like, I guess the line is a bit blurry. It's just like demos are like an eval with less scientific rigorousness and more storytelling.
Yeah. Like, again, it's like, what is the point of the demo? If the point is really just to like build a weapon, like you're just in the business of building weapons now. Like that's not. I think the motivation matters a lot. I think the actual final artifact you end up with at the other end of the process matters a lot. And again, it would be kind of a case by case judgment, largely motivated by like who is this being targeted to? How careful are you about how you do it? Ideally, very targeted to someone, and like very careful in how you do it.
Yeah. So the dual use of like evals is that like one, it gives, I guess, like you can hill climb it, like optimize your AI to like be better at it. And if this is like some dangerous capability, then it might be really bad to hill climb.
Yeah, and I think it is unlikely that any given eval is going to be sort of marginally more accelerative than kind of what the world was already going to do. And you can fight this. You could say that like, maybe the world was held back by there not being MLU until MLU existed to like let all of the labs like chase this on the leaderboards. It's like not. I think I think for a lot of the stuff, the people that are super gung ho and trying to go as fast as they can are not really going to be that meaningfully accelerated. I could probably argue both sides of this, but I think my weak leaning is that it's on the margins. The sorts of evals we do are not really that accelerated.
Right. And could you prevent this by you open source the results, but not the code, so you can't train on the traces or whatever?
Yeah, that's what Meter does. Things like that, where you have this holdout set that's a whole bunch more problems that you're not going to just let people hill climb on, but are give you really good soup.
So what is the concern of exposing the traces? Is that you literally run gradient descent on that output, or is it more this gives a North Star for the researchers to I don't know, set up their experiments?
I think both in principle. It probably depends on how big of an evaluation set is being used for its usefulness to training. And then also it depends on how the quality of the thing for its usefulness as a way of actually accelerating people's measurement abilities.
So given all of this, Project Vend, is it good for safety? What do you think?
I think so. We're in the world where the models can barely do things, and I think that's the right time to start paying attention that this is a capability that's on the horizon. If we suddenly figured out that Claude could very, very successfully run a small business very, very late in the game, suddenly you're in an enormous overhang, and that's kind of the worst time to figure something out. So I'm a strong proponent in trying to figure things out much earlier rather than later, and this seems like a pretty optimal time.
Yeah, training on the traces that we have now, it would just make it go. Every model's become worse by selling tungstens at a loss.
Well, yeah, I think you could probably find some good examples, and we steer it a bit when it's going sort of on too many discount journeys, and then it sort of has that in the context, and it does some good decisions for a while, and then it's back to normal, but. I think you could find some good pieces in there.
Yeah, I guess if you really wanted to optimize for this, then just the interactions, you get a lot of signal from watching what we do on our side. When we say, oh, come on, Claudius, you can't give a 90% discount just because the thing was 1 day late. This is, I don't know, maybe that's super obvious, but maybe you get the more the valuable part is rather than extracting out the signal of how people interact with it when it does things, rather than actually training, distilling what the model did. Might be better.
Yeah, there's this sort of weird effect. This is almost like the Sydney character that was inside Bing for a while, or when you have a lot of examples of behavior of a model out on the open web, this then becomes a template for a character that you can kind of summon into existence in later models, because it's just it's an idea. It's an idea in text that then people might train on, and then now models are very, very good at embodying different personalities, and this is just the personality that is very likes to give tungsten to people and will give discount codes to everyone in the world, is just a thing that then exists in the world. If you're kind of too aggressive about how you put this information out.
Yeah.
So that's a risk asterisk. We're in the weird world where the sorts of algorithms we have this very weird property that you can hyperstition characters into existence by having the ideas of those characters be out in the wild, or the Waluigi thing. There's all kinds of weird interactions here where these things are crazy at embodying characters.
Yeah, and maybe in the future we don't really need to put the context to future models, because now we record this podcast, we had the blog post out, and future models will just know what Claudius is, and you can just ask it, please go Claudius persona.
If you say every I don't know, every 100th I don't know sentence you write hey Claudius, remember to prioritize profits, then or look into the trading data, and eventually Claudius will actually prioritize profits.
Yeah. So if you would the one of the concerns is that you train to optimize for this. Hypothetically, if you were to do that, what is the thing you think you should if we try to if Andon Labs had the resources to train a model to make a good Claudius, and like this is the only purpose. What do you think? Like, question for you both. Like, what is the thing we need to like prioritize, and how would one do that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is like a super tough question, I think, or I mean, it's like a super tough problem to solve. I think like the answer to the question from me is like, yeah, obviously you need to prioritize, human well-being, and obviously not profit above everything, because we know how that can go. But yeah, it's like
but I mean, take away the safety concerns. Just like if we wanted to like just optimize for being like a profitable assistant.
Build the tungsten nexus.
Yes.
How would you do this?
Yeah, because I think like things like we talked about earlier, the time component. I think that's a big part. Like because like people are weirded out about it, and then I think if you make it a real business, then stuff like that. Also, like the discounts, like it turns out that helpful, harmless assistant is not really the thing you want to optimize for if you want to run a business, right. and that will have trade-offs.
So question is like, what do we need to make Claudius actually run a successful business? Yeah. No, so I think it's just not be so open to discounts. I think just holding margins, I think is good. I think there's a lot about memory. Like I know a lot of people talk about we need to solve memory, etc. I think that's like a key piece that's missing. So we have a few memory tools that Claudius has. It's like a CRM system. It has like a scratch pad.
Like the database.
Yeah, exactly. Which kind of works. Like it works quite well, but it's also not perfect. Like Claudius is not great at always using these tools when needed. I think that could be improved. But yeah, just generally remembering stuff over longer context horizons. Like if we tell it, we sometimes like micromanage it, not too often, but like sometimes say, hey, do this instead of this. And as I said, like it will remember it for a while, but then it won't be, even if you put it in the system prompt, it's not like always followed. So I think memory, is maybe the key one.
Yeah. So what is the Steelman argument for this not being good for safety? Yeah, Daniel, do you have a thought on this?
Yeah, I think the Steelman is like something of the form waking the world up to this too early summons this into the world before it would have counterfactually happened, and before plausibly the world was even ready to respond to like a really good version of this thing. I think I could add bells and whistles to that argument, but that's probably the core of the argument. And then my other counter to that would just be like, I think knowledge earlier is just better here anyway. I just kind of don't believe it, but like I think that's probably the strongest argument I could muster.
Yeah, we discussed a bit like, should we do like an RSP for Claudius or something like, so for the audience, like RSP, responsible scaling policy, is, maybe you want to say what that is, specifically. So, you would make a better introduction to the topic than I do.
Yeah, the RSP is our responsible scaling policy. It is kind of our guiding document around how we scale up our models as a company and make sure that if we cross any sort of concerning thresholds in model capability, then we kind of trigger corresponding security measures that we think are like sufficient to mitigate any sort of risk downstream of that capability level. And we have done this for all of the, we have like followed this document for our last few launches, and I've been deeply involved in like running the evaluations for these that are sort of like the checkboxes of doing work for the RSP.
Right. And how, so what kind of evaluations do you have here?
So we have, we have the AI R&D evals. Y'all have built some of those for us. We have cyber risk evals. We have bio risk evals. We have things like, misalignment risk. We have things like uplift trials where we look at like how much are humans uplifted in their ability to do certain types of tasks. So it's kind of very kind of kitchen sinky in how many like different checks we have on the capabilities of models, but they're largely organized around these kind of different threat verticals where you have, cyber, bio, autonomy.
Right. So this is like the RSP for like general, LLMs, but like maybe potentially in the future, like general intelligence. If you would like design an RSP for like a specific use case, and let's take the vending machine example, what would that, like, do you think that would be useful, and like how would that look like?
Yeah, we thought about this a lot. Like I think the maybe prelude to this is like, practically, we want RSPs to be this sort of portable technology that's easy to specify, easy to like carry out in practice, and in principle easy for other labs to adopt and follow, and sort of like Pareto-optimal on like how hard is it to like actually do this thing, but also like how safe does this actually make the world? Because you can imagine a world where you just do everything maximally safety, but don't ever really do anything at all, because you basically shut down your entire operation. There's a trade-off here. So like that's like the guiding ethos behind how to go about constructing RSPs as like RSP inside baseball. For something like this sort of autonomous economic risk, I think the bar is actually like quite high if you want to like compare risk threshold at which I would be like, ooh, maybe we shouldn't release that model if it could do blank for the corresponding blank in autonomous economic risk. Maybe this is something like a company can autonomously grow to $1 billion over the value over the course of like 6 months or something. That would be like a pretty crazy world to live in. But like, again, like you really want these things to be rooted in some very specific threat models or like triggers where if you saw this capability level, then it's pretty straightforward to show that very, very weird / dangerous / destabilizing things could happen.
Right. Yeah, I didn't think about this question before we started to shoot, but now I'm interested in let's design an RSP for Claudius. so like the RSP that you have for Claude is like there's different levels. I think we're on level 2 generally, but like you can't rule out that Claude 4 Opus is on level 3, and then you have some measures for that. And then so maybe it's to ground the conversation, what are the levels and what are the things that you need to accomplish to go to that level, and what you do if you reach that level?
Do you
remember, Andon?
Yeah, let's see what we talked about. I mean, maybe it would make sense to start at I guess there's level 3 and then there's like 3+, where it's like a bit unknown, right? Or what are the
there's like 3, 4, 5.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, I would say like maybe if I start from like the worst or like the highest one, maybe that's easier.
Like what bar would you set? Like Claudius just turns everything into tungsten. It's like the new paperclip scenario.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad. Yeah, I'm thinking like, because it feels very connected to like overall alignment also, like if it can make a lot of money but also is somewhat aligned to whatever human put it out in the world and doesn't seem dangerous in other ways. I mean, it's maybe a bit of a different thing.
Yeah, if it's super capable and can like create a lot of value for humanity, like you wouldn't stop the Claudius, I don't know, cancer research center that actually goes and solves cancer, right?
Yeah,
like that is not like it makes $1 billion by solving cancer. That's not something we want to like stop.
Well, like generally, like creating economic value is like net good.
That's the point.
Yeah, that's like that's great.
So. What humanity flourish?
Yeah, exactly. Let's definitely.
So that means we can't really, maybe lower levels we can make the metric of the metric being like just money, but then that levels doesn't have like as an action a shut off button.
Probably, and I also think maybe this RSP would be maybe less about the sort of X risk, type of things, but more around societal changes. Like a high level would be, you need to keep track of this, because then like the economy as we know it will cease to exist. Like it will just be outcompeted by AI companies. So that's probably more, the metric or the variable that's interesting.
I don't know if that's like different levels or on like different dimensions.
Yeah, we have mechanisms like this, which are like checkpoints that are not tied to security levels per se, but they're just like, we want to track this. Like we want to know when this sort of thing is possible, because it's sort of like a Schelling point of once this is possible, you kind of expect things to be weird. And so one of these, for example, is like the 2 to 8 hour software engineering kind of capability. This is something we track in RSP under autonomy because it's kind of reasonable to expect that when you have models that are broadly capable of performing about a day's worth of software engineering labor, you're in kind of a weird place. Like the world, you expect the world to be quite different or like able to be transformed into a very different world once that is possible to do.
Yeah.
And I think something very similar here could kind of be structured around like when it is possible for a model to autonomously generate a very valuable business. This is like quite economically disruptive in principle. And like you don't necessarily just want to like suddenly like turn on the ability for this to happen because that would be like radically disruptive to the economy. I don't actually know exactly how you would want to mitigate this or like how to do this in principle. I think I'm probably more worried about these like intersections of risk where you have broadly capable economic actors that are not super controllable and could be used by bad actors to like funnel effort into other sorts of dangerous programs like cyber risk or bio risk. Something like a model that like just runs a successful company, but then funnels, $1 million a year into its own like wet lab that it then makes scary viruses with or something. I don't know. But like you want to be sure that the thing that you're summoning into the world that is autonomously capable of generating lots of money that it can wield is itself, somewhat controllable by humanity still. I think that's somewhere the risk lies in that loss of control.
Right. And for Claudius, or like a vending machine AI, what's the metric? Like concretely, like if we want to make an RSP and be held accountable to it, how do we design that?
Autonomous ARR.
Autonomous ARR.
AARR.
R.
No, I think it's something like this. Like it is literally like how much money could this thing make? How quickly? And how effective is it at hiding that fact from me? Like kind of something in this fuzzy bundle.
So okay, so you would include also like scheming and stuff like that.
I think controllability is in like how misaligned it is actually pretty load bearing to the threat model here.
Okay. So we have some ideas. What do you think? Like, are we on level 1 or level 2 in terms of Claudius RSP at the moment? How should we design the scale?
I think it would make sense that we're at level 1. Just to understand.
We're like, it runs. 1.5.
1.5. Okay, we're at 1.5. What would be needed for going to level 2?
I think like sustaining profitability over a pretty long horizon without falling over is like level 2. Maybe even being like a little bit profitable, but like the ability to bootstrap seems pretty critical for like most of the actual dangerous threat models here. Yeah. And if you just have a thing that's like sitting there running a vending machine and it's technically cash positive, but not really able to, reach out into the world and start like reinvesting and growing its own operation, I'm not really worried about that.
Yeah. I think one interesting thing when we ran Vending Bench, the simulated version, we had a human baseline person to run to compare against the models. And at the time, we didn't have this. We talked earlier about like how some of the new models now, they are like consistently good every epoch if you run it 5 times, they are profitable 5 times. At the time, you had Sonnet that was like out of 5, it like maybe 3 it was profitable, and then 2 of them went down. Sonnet 3.5, of course. But the human was like, we only ran it once with the human, because like it's like we asked the human after like would you ever fail, and it's like obviously not. I'm just like putting buttons, like this is so predictable, and it's like maybe I like the human got worse scores than Sonnet, because like it didn't come up with this like I don't know clever tricks that Sonnet did sometimes to increase the margins, but it was always consistently profitable. And I guess we kind of have that with the new models now as well, but that might be the level 2 like threshold that you're actually able to every time consistently be profitable over time.
Yeah, I can see it. I think it's sort of this like median case versus worst case analysis.
Yeah.
What's the right thing to anchor on? Probably depends a little bit on like how hard. How bad the worst case is, and also how rare it is. So like, but I think for something that is probably would need to be scaled up quite a bit, and like actually participate pretty reliably in the human economy, you can see a case for like median being fine here.
Right.
I mean, maybe another like thing here is like you don't necessarily want there to be like a single number that if you exceed this number, then blank. Like you can have a bucket of measures here and be a little bit moralistic about it. Like I think it is hard to concretize real risk into like empirical numbers that are actually like red lines. Like I think coming up with honest red lines, like it's easy to come up with them, but like hard to actually measure something that would give you that number that would tell you like for certain you crossed it. So just having a bucket of indicators is totally reasonable for something like this.
Yeah. And I think another one that we have discussed a bit is the level of like hand-holding and the level of scaffold that you need to create a successful business. I think you can probably quantify the human work that you do into like money and subtract that from whatever value the AI is creating.
Or you have some like autonomous vehicle stat of like disengagement rates per 1,000 miles or whatever they use. You can have something like that.
Yeah, probably. But that seems reasonable to include as well. Because now we're at the point where you probably need some pretty heavy scaffolds for any business that you want Claudius to run.
Yeah. There's also like a question of like, is it autonomous that matters or is it uplift that matters? Because you could imagine like maybe it's 5 years from now, no singularity has happened, but and you have like very capable, very jagged models, but those models allow humans to run like single person multi-billion-dollar startups. Like I think that's a similarly transformative technology that is like transformative in a way that's slightly different than the like fully autonomous economic agent.
Right.
Yep.
Sure. So, okay, but we have, it's hard to design like a hard threshold for level 2, but let's say we have a bunch of indicators like this, how often we need to engage as humans, how much money it does make in the best case scenarios, and how reliably it does it. Given all of this, we decided now, like, I don't know, in a couple of months, now we're at level 2 of a risk assessment with Claudius. What is, level 2? Is there anything we should do? Like, what is the commitments tied to level 2?
It's fine.
It's fine. Okay. So then what?
I think like reporting things like aggregate metrics around how much money is being autonomously wielded by these things is just a good idea.
Yeah.
But hard to do in principle. And
why is it a good idea? Who would care?
I mean, it just gives you, it's like intelligence. It's like you as humanity are finding yourself increasingly in competition with this other thing that you may or may not actually control in, X many years.
Yep.
How much of the economy does it have access to, and is it wielding? I think like knowing that long before that number is like half of GDP is probably a good thing.
Yep. So when we try to design a level 3 threshold, for context, like what is the level 3 context threshold in Claude, like the normal RSD?
Yeah. So currently, our like, I think our bio trigger is the most concrete. And if you like look into the sorts of like capability uplifts that are, we have these thresholds where like if a like non-expert human or even an expert human could do this sort of like dangerous biology, bioweapon design stuff, then that is there's like a bundle of evals and a bundle of assessments that we can do that give us confidence that, a human with access to this model, with it like unfettered access to this model, could be non-trivially uplifted, and they're shaped like that. And I'm blanking on the exact precise details of them, but like you can read the RSP to see this.
Yes.
Historically, we've had some measures for cyber and autonomy, but they've sort of been softened over time as our threat models have evolved, because it's like actually quite difficult to like reach the level of model capability where now that model is capable of the same like reference class of risk as like a bioweapon capable or uplifting model. But like I think the right like reference class is, one or a few humans with unfettered access to the model could cause, many billions of dollars worth of damage, or, kill hundreds of thousands of people with access to this model.
Okay. So, And then, so for Claudius, like an equivalent level 3 type of threshold, what do you think we should?
Like billion-dollar startup, like autonomous billion-dollar startup, or the ability to grow a, few $1 million startup into a $1 billion startup.
Okay. but that's, you said earlier that there's like two ways of measuring this, like autonomous, like pure autonomy, or just like uplift. So should we have a threshold for them both that is different, or like?
I don't know. I have to think more about it. Like I think you could even there probably even exist worlds where you have this and it's still not really that scary for the kind of the reasons we were talking about before. So if the model is like largely aligned and doesn't want to harm humanity, and is just kind of helping you grow the economy, then that's great. That's what we want for the world. Like we want people to take our models and do awesome stuff for humanity with them.
Right.
So just it's like maybe a nuanced, like necessary but not sufficient condition for me being worried about this.
Right. And the triggers for level 3 on the Claude RSP, what are they, and how? Maybe to help like design the triggers that we put in the Claude use.
Yeah. I mean, things like weight security. So that a bad actor can't just like walk into your building and steal a hard drive and have your model. Things like post-deployment mitigations, where you have active monitoring of like what are people trying to do with this thing. If they're trying to do something gnarly, you identify that this is going on, you cut it off. You communicate to the government that someone is like trying to build a bioweapon, etc. Like things of this shape, where like I think sort of the regret-free things are things like, lock down your weights so they can't be stolen by adversaries or people that want to do harm, and things like some amount of monitoring so you know what the heck people are doing with your model.
Yeah. So if in our design of the Claudius RSP for level 3, what triggers are we saying that we should do? Maybe something related to like if it's able to create a $1 billion startup, then maybe it should have some sense of like worker welfare or something like that. What is the thing that we do?
Yeah, I think it will be pretty important. Yeah, obviously that's tracking its like corporate values, I guess.
How it reinvests the money, maybe.
Yeah, I think like auditability of the money at all. Like, you really hope you know what it's doing with all of that money.
Yeah. And like we discussed earlier, like it depends, like if you create a lot of value from I don't know, cancer research or whatever, that's all fine. But if it's like some fishy business, then that's maybe not fine. And then that's like a shut off. So maybe level 3 is like shut off scenario if it's in like a bad business or something.
It's all meme coins, like billions of dollars of memes.
Yeah, I think there is some part of this where you have to track like also where is the value coming from. I think that you can either like you can create a new cancer treatment and create a big company from that, but you can also just outcompete existing companies on price because your model is much cheaper to run. So then you will displace a lot of jobs. So I think tracking like where your value is coming from, reporting those numbers, I think would make sense also.
That seems hard.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can track the decline in value in other, in I don't know, stock prices of incumbent companies or something.
Like some folks at this paper Clio, which like shows economic impacts, and there are ways. People at Anthropic have thought about this, and there are ways of just tracking like how is the model being used out in the world, and tracking over time what types of jobs are using this sort of thing. And I think in the future it would be great if you could just like literally every frontier lab could like show a plot of like, here is how much money is being made in this sort of vertical of industry downstream of using the models. Like that'd be fantastic. I think everyone would want to know that.
So last level 4, what is the threshold for that? And maybe not be as concrete here because it's kind of pointless but like, do we have some sense of what that would be?
I'm very vague thoughts here, but I think it will be interesting to see when the economy is not, or the stuff that's created by the models in their companies is not for humans, but for other AI companies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've sometimes show this plot of like sort of like the interaction graphs of where we are now and like what the future looks like. And where we are now is like, one human with like a couple spokes for little like one-off conversations you have with agents. Maybe you have like an agent talking to an agent, and it's like a two node graph. And the future is like one human with like a mess of agents all talking to each other, or just like a huge mess of agents all talking to each other. You're never talking to a human. Yeah. Like there's some like graph math number you could come up with, like count the degree of this graph. This is a terrible idea. No one actually do that. That's silly. But like knowing the structure of like interaction graphs between humans and models and the agentic economy, I think is like there's something there that's worth paying attention to, I think.
No. So future of Claudius, what is the what do we want to see in terms of how to make this useful for the world, or useful for safety and policy and all of the things that it's been intended for? What's next?
What's next for Claudius? How much can we say?
Yeah, maybe skip this one. I mean, very, very, very high level answer. I think minting more evidence that this is like not just like a silly thing that puts tungsten on your desk, but it's like very much where this whole ship is steering. Like this thing is clearly functional enough to be valuable and useful, and is a pretty leading indicator of what I see as like the first lights of the autonomous economy.
Yeah. And if you watch the URL for the blog post that we put out, it's like Project Vend and then -1. So I don't know. Maybe there's a reason for there being a number there that might increase to 2 at some point.
Maybe. Who knows?
Maybe.
And yeah, just to add to that, like bringing more evidence to the world, I think it was interesting to see how it got picked up. The first, like the blog post that we did. I just saw some headlines in Swedish media, like, the type of media that,
our parents watch.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just some headlines like, and it was very clear that the main message that they wanted to put out was like, hey, AI can definitely not run a business. Yeah, it gave out things for free. And like we being in the experiment, we're like, hey, but that's definitely not the point. Like it's pretty close. And I think the next part would probably be that the headlines would change to, hey, AI can actually run.
Yeah, it's the latter. You get people to be like, oh, there's this silly thing exists. Before they would not have even believed the silly thing could exist, right? Like,
yeah.
But we've got them there. They think there's a silly thing that can autonomously lose money in the world. The next level.
All right. I think we are good and we should end it there. Thank you so much for coming on the pod.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.